This video is brought to you by Pitaka. You know, after each Apple event, the iPad might feel a bit like an afterthought when it comes to newly announced features. It usually receives a lot less attention on stage, especially this time with iPadOS 18. Think about it. If we put the iPad calculator and the amazing math notes features aside, and of course AI, which is yet to be unpacked, what is actually new? The reality is that tons of features that get introduced on the iPhone reserve their spot on the iPad as well, and they should not be ignored. An important one that comes to my mind is the ability to lock an app behind Face ID, which happens super easy and also reveals the option to hide that specific app. Something that I recently talked about in my iPhone and iOS 18 episode, which I'll link at the end of this one. Similarly to the iPhone, the freedom of the home screen organization is here too. My philosophy has always been that a single device screen is more than enough to represent my daily essentials and activities, reducing the need to endlessly scroll through pages of apps. With the utilization of app folders, widgets, stacks, and spotlights, I can easily position everything a glance away, and with iPadOS 18, things are now even better as I have complete freedom of placement. Putting my desired apps towards the bottom of the screen is finally possible, so is icon tilting, larger icons with no labels, and so much more. By the way, you can still have two placement preset positions of the iPad layout. What I mean by that is that you can customize how everything is placed horizontally and have a completely different vertical organization. If you've been a long-time viewer, you'll probably know that keeping things organized is a pet peeve of mine, and I was very satisfied to completely wipe clean the iPad's control center to start from scratch. The resize pull tab available there is clutch, so are the resizable widgets throughout the home screen. But what I was more interested in while spending time with iPadOS 18 is what else is new and truly unique. So here's what caught my attention.
Yo!
What's that?
Don't forget why not.
Oh yeah, by the way, you're right. If you end up enjoying this video, subscribe because why not? Having benched the iPad for a while to spend some quality time with my Surface Pro, something like Smart Script that was introduced immediately made my Surface Pen feel like an ancient device. If you've never heard of it, this is a brand new AI toolset deeply integrated in the Notes app. This thing will improve, correct, straighten up, and downright skyrocket handwritten notes while preserving the handwriting style. It is absolutely bonkers in real life, as it not only makes everything that much better looking and legible, but it also has a built-in spell checker. As an avid Notion fan, this is the first time I've seriously considered switching back to Apple Notes. If this is not a big enough reason for consideration, embedding or recording on audio directly is another banger. This happens when you tap on the little paperclip icon on the top of the Notes bar to insert one. This is super handy if you're in class or you want to record a meeting that you're participating in. Not only you can have the recording embedded into the note itself for future reference, but you can also get a transcript that you can easily copy-paste for, let's say, meeting notes. Now, often when I showcase things on the channel, you might see Apple accessories, but getting the most out of your iPad doesn't necessarily mean OEM. What I mean by that is that if you don't care about the Apple Pro Pencil tilting, but you still want to take advantage of things like Smart Script, you can grab something like the Logitech Crayon, which is a carpenter-style USB-C pencil that doesn't require pairing. It works out of the box with pretty much any iPad. It has auto-sleep, and 2 minutes of charging will top it up for another 30 minutes of drawing, doodling, or sketching. Same goes for the keyboard. It's a fact that you can't go better than the Magic Keyboard when it comes to build quality and ergonomics.
Yeah.
But it is by no means flawless since number one, it's expensive, and number two, it's quite heavy. A more reasonably priced option is the Logitech Combo Touch, for example, which is much lighter while providing better all-round protection. You can swivel back the keyboard or remove it altogether, featuring a classic Surface-like kickstand. Having a kickstand design though makes this model a bit more cumbersome to use in a lap, as it won't be so sturdy and secure. Plus, it physically requires a lot more room. When it comes to writing on the iPad in your lap, the Magic Keyboard is unbeatable. It's built like a tank, offering some of the best typing experience and most of all, unmatched trackpad capabilities. You might have noticed that in order to tackle the rubbery, fingerprinty finish, I grabbed a D-brand skin that can come in plethora of finishes including real leather. The one I installed in particular is called Hydro Dip. It's quite funky. It not only eliminates any oily residue feeling, but it also gives me peace of mind when I put the iPad in and out of bags or carrying it as is. Since I got carried away with accessories, let me show you the Pitaka ecosystem as well because it is something that I've been using for years. It all starts with the Mac Easy Case 2, which is this ultra slim, 100% Magic Keyboard compatible iPad Pro case. Made with aerospace grade aramid fiber being only 1.3mm thin, you'll barely notice it while gaining super strong magnets. You'll still be able to charge the Apple Pencil and enjoy side and camera protection when rocking the Magic Keyboard, but where things get interesting is by detaching it and snapping it onto Pitaka's Mac Easy stand. With tilt adjustment, infinite rotation, and perfect elevation, the Mac Easy stand turns the iPad into the ideal workstation. By the way, there's an actively cooled wireless charger on the bottom for your other devices. Now, if you want to travel as light as possible, you can detach the iPad and snap it onto the Mac Easy Folio 2, which provides a protective pencil flap and 4 different standing angles. Watching videos, browsing the web, drawing, or just using the iPad propped on a table, this ultra slim and light folio will stay securely in place, so be sure to check out Pitaka's amazing iPad accessories collection in the first link in the description below. Now, I don't know about you, but reading articles on websites has become almost unbearable lately. With endless pop-ups, consent forms, and floods of ads, it's a frustrating experience to say the least. The good thing is that just like Thanos, I can finally blip everything annoying out of existence with the help of an iPadOS feature called Hide Distracting Items. As you can expect, this works in Safari and it lives under the address bar menu, but unfortunately, upon refreshing, all the junk comes back. However, I think I'll find good use for it whenever I want to take a screenshot of an article, for example, which before was only presentable after having cleaned it up in an image editing app. So yeah, a good and time-saving feature. In that same address bar menu, by the way, now lives another interesting new feature called Listen to Page.
Real Madrid's Vinicius Jr. offered over $1 billion to move to
Even without agreeing to accept the cookies on a newly opened website, I can just dive in and listen knowing that AI will ignore the ads, the breadcrumbs, and pretty much all other unnecessary info to deliver a fairly natural sounding article.
And has been one of the club's standout players in recent years.
I can't ignore the improved customizable reader as well. In fact, I think Apple should introduce automatic reader mode by default so that whenever I open something, I'll simply be able to dive into reading and ignore everything else. See, this is yet another thing that makes me rethink using Google Chrome. Anyways, on a more productive note, there are 2 new Files app features that really caught my attention. The first one being super important for creative people. As someone who deals with tons of SD footage and external hard drives, I require formatting on multiple occasions almost every single day. Whenever I have a new drive inserted into the iPad, I can finally erase and format it by tapping and holding on the drive in question in the sidebar. Dealing with SD cards and drives, by the way, requires a proper hub. I have a few that I switch between, but I often come back to this Anker Power Expand Plus 7-in-1 because it is more on the compact size. Having only one USB-C, the iPad begs for something like this, especially if you're not using the Magic Keyboard to enjoy the extra charging port. In that case, the Anker comes in very handy, having a power delivery port, allowing me to keep the iPad charging while taking advantage of the extra slots. The second major upgrade to the Files app applies to people who work with iCloud. If you're like me and you store your life on iCloud, the ability to force keep an iCloud file or folder locally on the iPad is more than welcome. I no longer need to re-download things that iCloud might deem necessary to offload, which is a time saver in the long run. Now, I know I've shown this before in my iPhone videos, but to this day, I'm surprised how many people don't know about this easy way to select multiple files in iOS and in iPadOS. For that purpose, all you have to do is just hold 2 fingers and drag to select multiple files. It is absolutely effortless and it saves so much time. Few other Files features you can utilize while having selected a bunch of items quickly is either compressing them to create a zip file or quickly placing them inside a folder. If you tap and hold on a selected file to pull out the secondary menu, you also have a quick actions menu which changes according to the items that are selected. For example, if you select images, you'll be able to quickly remove the background of those images, rotate them, create PDF combining them all together, or optimize their size, which might be the feature that most people use. Another time-saving feature that is hidden in the multitasking and gesture settings, which is the very last setting that might be disabled for you, is swipe finger from corner. If you turn that on, you'll now be able to swipe from the bottom left to take a super quick screenshot, or swipe from the bottom right to bring out quick notes. The position of these bottom swiping gestures can be swapped depending on your preference, and I think both of them are super useful to keep as active. Corner swipes are not new to iPadOS 18 per se, but SmartScript now works with quick notes as well, making it one of the sharpest ways to jot down something important in a pinch. In case you're wondering, every time you pull out a quick note, you can enable resuming from the previous one, which can be toggled from the settings of the notes inside the main settings app. Which brings me to the fact that most settings of most apps still live under the main preference app. However, a nice upgrade this time around is having placed all third-party applications under a separate apps page. This update alone simplifies iPadOS settings app significantly, adding a much needed alphabetical order and even a search capability. To my surprise, the ability to uninstall apps from there does not exist, which is a missed opportunity in my book. A seemingly unimportant new feature that I discovered once I hooked the iPad to my setup is the ability to drag and drop windows between the main monitor and the iPad's display. Now, this might seem like a small thing, but to me, this is absolutely worth mentioning as it turns the old clunky monitor experience to something rather useful. Full screen support for the plugged-in display is also improved, delivering finally something like a full screen experience on the large screen and a usable one on the tablet itself below. Scaling works fantastic, even if you use a non-Apple monitor, the only must in my book being power delivery via USB-C. Something in the 27-inch department with a minimum of 60 watts, which you can plug in directly, might be more than enough. Thunderbolt support and support for hubs works fantastic as well, where you can power up webcams, external speakers, and more. If you want to pull a fully functional portable dual monitor setup with just your Mac and your iPad, then you should definitely check out my recent iPad accessories episode right here, as well as my 11 versus 13-inch iPad size guide right here. Like and subscribe to the channel, as well as my newsletter, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is Z, over and out.